Hello, everyone. My name is Dania. I'm pleased to welcome you at the latest episode of USG Alumni Talks, both on Facebook and YouTube channel. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. And as we're live now, you're welcome to participate in our live discussion by submitting questions in the comments box. And now, let me introduce our guest speaker, Alisher Hamidov. Alisher Hamidov is a teacher of the Faculty of Translation Interpretation at Uzbekistan State World Languages University. He was a Fulbright FLTA at Indiana University from 2017 to 2018. Alisher Hamidov completed his bachelor's and master's degrees in translation interpretation at Uzbek State World Languages University. He has participated in a number of professional development courses, national and international competitions and conferences. He started his career as a translator during his undergraduate studies and so far has worked for a number of companies, agencies, and projects. Alisher has taken part in various volunteering activities. For instance, he volunteered at Conference on Central Asian Language and Linguistics at Indiana University, USA, and Indiana University Share Fair Spring 2018. Alisher Hamidov is the author of multiple scientific articles in translation and teaching foreign languages. And today, Alisher will be talking about translation and how to become an interpreter. Hello, Alisher, and welcome to our live session today.
Hello, Dania. Thank you very much for your warm welcome and nice meeting you all.
Thank you. Let's get started as we're so excited to hear about from a language expert about translation and interpretation best practices and tips.
Okay.
Let's turn the presentation on. Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, once again. Today, I'm going to talk about becoming an interpreter, what to do in order to become one, and the differences between interpretation and translation. And I'm going to give you some small, some hints about becoming an interpreter or a translator, what you should do or what you shouldn't do in when you are training to become an interpreter. So on the screen right now, you can see my regular room. I am sitting here right now. This is located at the Uzbek State World Languages University. It was equipped by the Korean International Cooperation Agency. It was a big project, and you can see here two booths where the interpreters sit and train, and other microphones are designed for delegates where people make speeches and they speak in different languages, and we have lessons here with both master's and bachelor degree students here. This is pretty much the location where you can find me in most cases, and I work here and spend much of my time in this room with my students. Okay, so I have been working as an interpreter for different organizations and different federations, funds, such as Equestrian Sport Federation. I was interpreter there and interpreting consecutively, and you can see on the picture on the right, I interpreted consecutively for the installation of Chinese equipment, molding machines. And many students of mine think that interpreter should be wearing only ties and suits. Actually, it's not, as you can see from the pictures here. You can be in different situations, in different places, in different you might encounter different challenges. And on the left side, you can see me working in my classic outfit. Because I was invited immediately to interpret to the equestrian sport. When I was at university, I was just about to leave the university, and people called me and asked to go to the jockey club as an interpreter, and I had to leave with what I was wearing. And the next day, of course, I changed it, but on the first day, I came to interpretation with the classic things and with the suits. Of course, I took it off, and that's why you cannot see it on this photo. But the interpretation can happen. I just want to say that interpretation can happen in different location, in different situation, like as you can see here. Yeah, so before I get started talking about the how to train or how to become an interpreter, I would like to say these important words here. Speaking two languages does not make you a translator or interpreter any more than having two hands makes you a pianist. So it doesn't mean that if you have two hands, it doesn't mean that you can play a piano. No. The same thing happens with the translation and interpretation. Like many people say that, okay, I speak two languages and I'm an interpreter. No, it's not. It requires lots of hard work before you become an interpreter. If not, there are going to be many failures in your life, and the interpreting career might end very quickly. That's why before you get started with your professional interpreting career, it's better to get appropriate training and then start interpretation, professional interpretation work job. Okay. So next one, the definition. I would like first of all to define the difference between translation and interpretation. Translation is the written one, and interpretation is the oral one. And interpreting itself is also divided into many parts, like two big ones: simultaneous interpreting and consecutive. Like in simultaneous, the speaker will be talking and the interpreter will be interpreting at the same time in the booth, which I've just shown you in the previous slides, in the very first slide actually. And in consecutive one, you will have to interpret after the original speech stops. The speaker stops after speaking like 1-2 paragraphs, and then the interpreter starts interpreting, and that's called consecutive interpretation. Both consecutive interpretation and simultaneous mainly happen at the conferences, and that's why they are also called conference interpreting, interpretation at the conferences. And so the simultaneous interpreting also divided into small groups too, interpreting in the booth. Like it's the interpreter sits in the booth, sits there, interprets as you have just seen on the first slide, the booth. And booths can also be in different size, in different locations, sometimes not in the room, in the conference room, or it can be in different room, but you will be provided with a special devices like cameras in order to see the room where the conference is taking place. And this is the interpreting in the booth. Besides that, there is whispering, or people also call that shushutage. This is also kind of simultaneous interpreting, where interpreter sits between two guests and whispers the interpretation into their ears. This type of simultaneous interpreting is carried out when there is only limited number of listeners or delegates who do not understand the language of the conference, this can be done maximum. One interpreter can do it maximum for 2 foreign guests, because he can sit in between two people at the same time. And besides that, there is also side translation. Side translation, or in Russian they call it перевод с листа. This is kind of I use it at my in my classes as a exercise. Like I give the text, and the student should interpret into another language, just looking, not reading the original text. This is also, I would say, both. It can be both simultaneous interpreting, but mostly it's an exercise for training the simultaneous interpreters. This is pretty much what I wanted to say about the difference between translation and interpretation, and the types of simultaneous interpreting. The skills needed for mastering the interpretation are as follows. Of course, when we like 6 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, I visited South Korea for professional development, and when we came there, the professor who had been interpreting to many presidents of the world asked us, what kind of skills, what kind of important skill should a person possess in order to become an interpreter? We came up with lots of ideas, and yes, actually they were right, but since it was really obvious that you should speak two languages, we didn't say that. And at the end of the day, he said, of course, speaking two languages is the most important thing, of course. And I totally agree with him. And it should be at advanced level. And the next one is knowing the terminology of the translated text. It's really, really important. As I've already mentioned, I would like to tell here one story which happened with me when I was interpreting at Equestrian Sports Federation in Uzbekistan. The supervisor who came from, if I'm not mistaken, from Germany, he asked me, who is the shoemaker? And I said, at that moment, I looked at his shoe and saw that there was a hole on his shoe. And I said, and I thought he was asking someone who would help him to fix his shoe. And because it was cool, and it was getting cold, it was late November, and I thought he needed like a shoemaker for his shoes. And when I asked him, when I interpreted, they said, okay, we will do it when we go to the center, when we go back to Tashkent. And when I interpreted to our guest, he said, no, I need the shoemaker. He picked up the horse's leg and showed me the shoe on the horse. And I immediately understood that what was going on. And I said, okay, who is Takashi here, which means like a shoemaker in Uzbek. And then they found another, the person who was responsible for making shoes. So it means like knowing the terminology of the text, or knowing the terminology of the speech. It is really, really important. I can give you so many examples for that, but since we are limited of time, we can move on, I think, with the next one, like ability to utilize information communication technologies for distance interpreting. Now, distance interpreting is becoming very popular in many countries. Like they do not actually invite you to the interpreting site. They will be just turning on Zoom, or like this distance video conferencing, or just they might be using a phone, and you will have to interpret. And I have done it for once or twice in my life, and that's why it's really, really important to be able to use the information communication technologies, and you should be like an advanced user of that. Besides that, it is really, really important for taking notes. Of course, pen and sheet of paper or notebooks are always the best choice for taking notes, personally for me. But there are some interpreters who prefer using nowadays iPads, tablets, and that's also another way, another method of taking notes. And if you can do it, and if you feel free, and if you are confident with that, why not? Why not to use that? And besides that, the simultaneous interpreting devices are also a part of the information communication technology, and you have to be able to use them in your daily professional career. And besides that, every interpreter should develop his or her own symbols for note taking. You cannot write down every word which is being said by the speaker, because it's not a dictation, obviously. And for that, you will have to take notes very quickly, and to write, to give the main idea and what is written. And you have to be able to figure out what's written from the symbols, and your symbols should be your own. There are some people or some students who say that why don't we develop the symbols, and that will be general or common for everybody. Yes, that can be done too, but it's better to develop your own ones. I think it's my point of view. And the next one, of course, for simultaneous interpreters, reaction is very important. Because you have to speak, listen, write, and you're gonna be disturbed at the same time in the booth. So people will be coming in saying, "Please do this, do that," and you cannot say, "Please go away, I'm interpreting." No, you have to be able to concentrate on what you're doing while you are being disturbed, interrupted by some people. And the conferences are not like quiet places. It's not a library. People will be talking, people will be moving around, and that's why for interpreters, a good reaction and ability to speak, listen, write, and to work in disturbed environment is really important. And memory for consecutive interpretation is really important. And you may you may go ahead and see on YouTube the ex-president of US, Barack Obama's, and Iraqi's Prime Minister al-Maliki's negotiations, talks, and you're gonna be surprised. Like Barack Obama will be speaking for more than 5 minutes, like 6 minutes, or more than 6 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. He will be speaking, and the interpreter will be taking notes all the time, and it means like interpretation consecutively. For interpreting consecutively, you need a very good memory, and to develop that, you need to learn to memorize to memorize the images, not the words, not the sentences. Memorizing the images. Like if they say America and Uzbekistan met, you might imagine the flag of America and Uzbekistan, or the map. That will be a better way of memorizing, rather than memorizing the words and certain expressions, because a person's memory can learn by heart from 7 up to 10 items at the same time, and more you cannot memorize. And the next, I'm talking about short-term memory. And of course, culture. This is interesting thing happened when I first came to the United States, and I went grocery shopping for the very first time. I did my shopping, and I was about to leave, and I was to pay for my groceries, for my purchase, and the cashier asked me, "Plastic or paper?" And as a person who just came from Uzbekistan, I thought that they were asking me whether I was going to pay by plastic. In Uzbekistan we call cards plastic, and paper. I thought maybe it's like an kind of a word or term which should be used for cash. And I said, no, 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 I will be using plastic. And the cashier said, okay, but tell me, plastic or paper? And a person who took me to grocery shopping, who had been living in the United States for a while, was like bursting into laughter that day. And I, at that moment, suddenly I saw that there were two types of packaging, like plastic bags and paper bags, and they were asking me actually which bag I preferred, the plastic or paper. And the second one, an incident at the um, in Philadelphia airport. We had an orientation in Philadelphia, and I was supposed to fly from Philadelphia to Detroit, and from Detroit I was supposed to fly to Indianapolis, and I was supposed to get two boarding passes at Philadelphia airport. And at the Philadelphia airport, the uh, person who checked my luggage in issued me one boarding pass, and I asked him for another one from Detroit to Indianapolis, and he did me this. And I said, what? And his face was really serious, and I said, am I supposed to pay him for another boarding pass, or should I bribe him? What's going on? I didn't understand that for the first time. And then he said, and I said, I don't understand. Please give me another boarding pass from Detroit to Indianapolis. And he kept doing this. And then when I saw that two boarding passes got stick together so tightly that it seemed to me as one boarding pass. Actually, he was doing this so that I would move it and see that there was actually two boarding passes issued already. This is so this example. So why I'm saying, because a person should be aware of not only even culture, but of a certain country, but also the gestures, body language, in order to interpret from one language into another. And these situations were very good experience for me in my interpreting career. And of course, background knowledge. You should be reading and expanding your outlook all the time, not just learn the terms of the certain sphere. No, interpreter should be reading even literature, poems, fiction, whatever, in order to have general idea and background knowledge in different spheres of life. So besides that, here you can see one of the mock conferences organized by me and my students here. They were third year students then. We organized the mock conference of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which was held in Ufa. And students came with the names and they downloaded the speeches made by the presidents there, and they interpret, and four of the other students they interpreted, and this is also very important to master the simultaneous interpreting. And which shouldn't be done, and which should be which you should do in order to master the interpreting, or when you are even professionally commencing interpretation, you should pay attention to this don'ts part. Like, don't look at the original speech. For me, when the original speech is provided at the last moment, it really uh, prevents me from speaking. I cannot refer to the speech and interpret. It's better for me just interpret spontaneously rather than looking at the original speech. And in many cases, the speakers start reading and then they stop and start sharing their ideas. That's why it's better to listen more than looking at the speeches and get confused. And no addition, I'm sorry, no addition or omission is allowed. And before the interpretation, at least one day, no alcohol, coffee, strong tea, and sodas or sparkling water. Like still water is okay. And be vegetarian for some time, otherwise drowsiness, attention, deployment, sluggish mood might happen. And this is not just my ideas. I read them in the textbook of for training simultaneous interpreters from English into Russian by I I'm not certain about the names, but Falaleva, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and they also suggest these things in their books too. So what should be done? Always be confident, even if you are not sure about your interpretation. Sometimes it might happen, and sit straight in the booth. Like if you start sitting not appropriately, it will be noticed. It will be noticed by the listeners, even though they cannot see you, and they will lose the interest to your speech. And speak loudly and clearly. Speaking is really important, and that's why we always train our students here with shadowing exercises. Here you can see on this slide, like and a person, an interpreter, should listen to speech very attentively. If you do not listen to the speech very attentively, you cannot interpret appropriately. Sometimes I have seen so many cases when interpreters do not understanding what's being said, start interpreting, and at the end of the day they failed big. And that's why the speech should be listened very attentively, and especially in consecutive interpretation. Sometimes people start making what's that mental interpretation. They start panicking. They say, okay, how am I gonna interpret this one? How am I gonna interpret this part? And that's why they forget what was said at the beginning of the speech in the consecutive mode. That's why the entire speech should be listened very attentively, and exercise regularly. Like many interpreters, and I also suggest to work on 3 speeches a day. Like each speech should be 20 or 25 minutes. Like it will take about 2 hours. And of course, shadowing means repeating after the original text, not interpreting. And shadowing not shouldn't be done just to repeat immediately. No, you should try to repeat after the original speech one phrase behind or one sentence behind, if you are trying Uzbek language, because the sentence structure of the Uzbek language is different from English one, and that's why it's better to train to shadow one phrase or one sentence behind, I think. And it is really useful, which I have seen in my practice. Practice with numbers, acronyms, proper names, geographical names. There are very good websites like Speech Repository for speeches, Numerizer.pro for numbers, and there are many quiz websites like you can just Google quiz in Africa, quiz in Asia, quiz in Europe, or quiz in North America, and they will be giving you very good websites for to practice geographical names, proper names, and other stuff. Finally, I'm gonna leave you with this phrase which I downloaded from this website, but also it was mentioned by my teacher when I was studying at master's degree. Many critics, no defenders, translators have but two regrets. When they hit, no one remembers. When they miss, no one forgets. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much for this interesting and amazing presentation, Alisher. And what a funny story about plastic or paper.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, we have some questions.
Mhm.
Read them out. A question from Umida Baltaeva.
Mhm.
Hi everyone, Alisher, thank you for wonderful presentation. I have the following question. Please name three personal strengths of a good translator.
A good translator should be let me tell you one thing. These are not my words. This was said by Elmira Dinisina, my instructor, my supervisor at university. She said, translator should know everything. This is first. Like translators should know everything, or try to know everything. That would I would change a little bit. And the second one, of course, translator or interpreter should be aware of the terms, terminology of a certain field. Without that, you can do nothing there. And the third one, clear speech in both languages. And because there are cases like when a person is speaking one language and starts using the other language words. And I know it doesn't happen only with Uzbek and Russian, or even there is a term in English, Spanglish, like Spanish and English is can be used. That's why when interpreter or translator should use 100% language, like one language when or like target language. When you are interpreting into Uzbek, the Uzbek should be 100%. You shouldn't add uh, some other words when, or try to keep it as minimum as possible. And besides that, you should be aware of your audience whom you are interpreting.
Right.
These are the very important parts, I guess.
Great tips. Thank you. Next question from Dinara Aripova. I'm studying English language and literature. I wonder how can I work on my translating skills by myself? Because in my university there is no faculty of translation.
Thank you very much, Dinara, for your question. And actually, my first suggestion, if you want to be written translator, let's make sure which one you want to be. It's better to work with Writers Union of Uzbekistan. We have had a project with them, and we translated books from Uzbek into English, our classic books, 18, if I'm not mistaken, from Uzbek into English directly. And Days Gone By was there too. Scorpion from Altar by Abdullah Qadri, Navoi by Oybek, and many others, even Shaitanat, Devildom by Tohar Malik. We translated them. And they have very good, how to say, support for new translators. They can give you good advice. And if you want to practice at home, please, if you want to practice your interpreting, oral interpretation, in that case, use website, uh, speech repository. Speech repository. It's a very great website designed by European Commission for training interpreters. Numerizer Pro for numbers. It is also a very good website. Numerizer.pro. And also, I also use the materials of United Nations General Assembly. It's also a very great website, UNGA. It provides you the speeches in all with with 8 interpretation languages at UN. Besides the speech itself in written form, you can get it, you can print it out and practice, and you can also practice your translation there. You can translate those speeches. Or I also use TED Talks on YouTube. That's also a great one to practice the interpreting. But for translating, you can download different speeches. You can translate books. You can translate poems. And if you are interested in translating literature, just please contact Writers Union of Uzbekistan. And I have been to some seminars organized by this organization, and they're doing greatly there.
Thank you so much. Dinara also asked what kind of resources you can recommend, books and courses, and I think you have answered those questions. You mentioned great resources. Thank you. Next question from Rushan Mahmudova. Thank you for the great tips. Have you ever had difficulties with interpreting proverbs from one language to another?
Proverbs, yes. It's really challenging activity for, I guess, any interpreter. And it's a very good question. Thank you very much. You should practice and learn by heart many proverbs in both languages. You cannot explain the proverb. You should give another adequate proverb in the target language. Two, it is important. You shouldn't just say, okay, the speaker said that. No. But if the speaker says jokes, tells a joke, or uses pun, игра слов, game of words, pun, in that case, it is impossible to interpret. It's not gonna be funny. In this case, when you are interpreting, it's not done only by me, it's done by many interpreters in the world too. It's how to say, in the booth, you just say, that it's not gonna be funny anyway if you interpret it. You just say, the guests, our speaker has just made a joke, please laugh. This is how you do it. Yeah, proverbs you should learn by heart. And I've had many cases when, not with the proverb. I had one case when the speaker immediately started telling a poem by Alisher and I didn't know what to do. In that case, it was a poem. You cannot interpret a poem momentarily. It's really important. You cannot go anywhere, and you cannot omit it. And I said, our speaker read a poem by Alisher Nawawi, which means, and the following. This is how I got out of the situation then.
That's great. Thank you. I have a question. What common mistakes people usually do when they try to translate or interpret?
First of all, when I began my professional interpreting career, or when I read the translations done by my students, I notice their word for word translations sometimes. Now I am talking about written one. Once there was a case. A student brought me his translation, and I think maybe he used Google Translate or something, a machine translation, and the uh, word was actually Divan Begi, the
Mhm.
head of chancellery, and the computer didn't understand it and translated it like word for word, and it became Sofa Begi. Yeah, and
Right.
maybe he did it on his own. Maybe it was the machine translation, but uh, using like word for word translation is a common mistake in a written one. In interpreting in an oral one, uh, sometimes you mishear some information, some facts, and you give it, you interpret it incorrectly, and that's the worst part.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions, and it's
Mhm.
actually time to wrap up. So
Mhm.
I want to thank you for, again, to thank you for this wonderful presentation and being our speaker today. Thank
Mhm.
you very much.
You're welcome.
I also want to thank our viewers for watching us, for your questions and comments. I
Mhm.
hope everyone has benefited from today's topic and discussion. It was really, really interesting and informative.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm really honored to be here and making presentation in front of you all.
Thank you again. And hope to see you all next time on USG Alumni Talks here on the American Spaces in Uzbekistan Facebook page and YouTube channel. Goodbye.
Hi.